You missed my two jokes. They were so good, right? Cheer for my joke too. See you guys.
I've noticed I've started doing this thing that seems to really help my guitar playing. When I play some of these lines, you'll notice it tonight. I do this thing. I'll show you. It looks like this. It's like I'm putting a cigarette out or something. I don't know when that started happening. I just like, oh, it's like a weird, like a guitar face, but my foot's doing it. What are you doing down there? So if you see that, just let me go. It's okay. I'm not in pain or anything. So guys, this is my third time, I think. Has anyone seen me play guitar before in person? Was it the Polyphia Intervals show? Where was that? Champagne? No, you're drinking beer tonight. I already saw that. Where was that venue? Was that in the city or was it outside of the city? Cool. Well, good to see you again. So guys, give it up for Keith Amaro. I don't know where he went, but give it up for Keith. It was fantastic. So much like he just did, we got like an hour together, so I'm going to play a bunch of guitar. What do you guys think of my new orange guitar? Do you guys like orange? Sexy. From a man in the front row. Sexy. Thank you very much. So yeah, think of some questions. I'm going to play one more and then we'll talk. I don't like humor, so I'm not going to make any jokes. I don't want to hear any laughing. It's going to be very serious. What? Okay, one more, guys. Actually, that ending, that keyboard at the end, I think I spent the most time in the whole production on that. So I had to make sure you heard every single one of those notes. So anyways, does anybody have anything on their mind they want to talk about? Music business, performance? Yes, sir. Yeah. Soft picking. Oh. Mental, you don't want to know what's going on up here, man. Oh my God. It's a mental routine, all right. Yeah. I think just because of the just because of the nature of the the type of guitars that I play, which are these funny looking things that are called single coil pickups, and actually they sound like that. Beautiful. Listen how beautiful my tone is. Don't you get inspired to want to write something when you hear that? Because I'm playing pickups like that, where they want to be played like that almost. Where sometimes a humbucker, it's kind of, what's a good word for that? Binary, like it's 1 or 0, it's like on or off. And if you do play like this, doesn't necessarily sound very good. It's either just a wall of distortion or something that just sounds like it's gated or just doesn't, at least to me. I like the fact that even though I'm using Keith's, it's so funny, I have an amp right here, but I'm using his Kemper because with the power of laptops, I can run everything just off of his one cable, which is fantastic. And for traveling, it's like I'm giving you an excuse why I'm using expensive gear. Just for the sake of traveling, I'm using his stuff. But even still, if I went just with the volume knob, I'm just brought it up a bit. Brought it down again. And then just went like. Like at the very end, or it really wants you to do that. It's like you got the whole range, and then if you factor in which pickup you're on, like if I end a phrase and I don't want this, I mean who wouldn't want that? But if I end it like that on the out of phase position, then you don't have that at all. So then a chord like. Even a G chord can be the most beautiful thing in the world. wants that, and all the percussion's there. And if I played on the clean channel and hit a little bit harder, it sounds really dynamic. And I'm definitely not in a meditative state ever in my life. It's chaos all the time. So I'm just playing to the tone, and because I've been playing guitars with the single coil pickups in them for so long, you just kind of learn how to do that. And because I do so many guitar clinics, and I like to play music that has a lot of dynamics in it, like that first song, the whole intro is just. If I was playing it like this, you really don't get any separation between the notes. And then even the backing track, which is just like that. Come on, it's too quiet. Versus. Jesus. So there's not enough. Yeah, Jesus chords, exactly. I don't think that was his name, but close. So that's right. And then I like the sound of that. I like they're blocking, their two heads are blocking you. Yeah, come up a bit. And I just like that sound a lot. And all my favorite guitar players, guys, sorry, just split the C right here. My favorite guitar player, who's Jeff Beck, he's like a master of that. It's all just me trying to be somebody else. That's what we're all trying to do, right, guys? Well, it got real there. So that's pretty much it. And then I have a guitar coming out soon with a humbucker in it. So it's like the exact opposite of that. But I try to live in both those worlds. Just like right now I'm dipping a toe in the... Oh, my God. Okay, cool. Hi. What's your name? Oh, that's a cool name. Pardon me? How do I compose my music? Lately I've hired a team of 15 people to. I'm just kidding. You're like, wait, your music's not that good. What's going on? Pardon me? Yes, exactly. I have them chained up in my basement. Oh shit! Did I say that out loud? You guys all have inside jokes in your different languages. You're teasing me. I'm from Canada. Okay, be nice to me. How do I write my music? I get asked that question. That's like the most asked question. I don't know. I really don't know. And I have. Do you write music? Do you know? How do you write your music? Do you have a way? You don't know either, do you? You have no idea. Oh, you have a big basement. I got a small basement. They all sleep in the same bed. What? Oh, I know that guy. I'm using red wine. Secret is red wine. Do you have any red wine? Oh, okay. No, I'm one of those people that unfortunately I don't hear anything in my head. Keith was talking about I hear things in my head, but it's not music. Keith, shut up. No. Keith was talking about how he hears certain things, and we had the same question in an interview earlier, and I answered it just basically like I don't know, and then I moved on. But I'm gonna try and elaborate a little bit. Because you all paid so much to be here, so I'm gonna I'm gonna elaborate a little bit on that. So basically, I have always needed to just be like working. There's some people who say like, oh, the sunset, fucking bam, and the song comes out. I can't do that. I don't get inspiration. Maybe it's because I'm dead inside. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I need to be sitting down and working, and I do this because it's usually at a piano. I notice I just naturally do that. I sit down. Not well. Actually, it should be more like this. I sit down at the piano. And do that. Because I find having all the harmony in front of me, I can just immediately hear things. And also, I take away technique. I'm a very hyperactive person. So I find if I sit down and play my guitar, it's usually like... And then that doesn't lead to good music. Jason Becker did that in 1986, and it was all good. I don't need to do that again. So I get rid of the guitar. That's the first thing. I take this out of the equation. I pull up my keyboard, and I just sit and work. And if something good comes out, I'll chase it. And that's very rare. Very, very rare. It's funny. It's like the ratio is like you don't have to duck. We're not in a movie theater. It's like 100 pieces of shit to like one. What's like the opposite of piece of shit? Gold, maybe? No, it's not that good. The opposite of shit. And it's always been like that. And I had to spend so much time writing just even to get to like the first album. I think it took me about 6 years of writing really bad music. And then you just get better at it. It's just like a muscle. You're constantly, it's the whole thing. Even if it's just an idea, that's like bringing the arm down, finishing the ideas, look at it. Yeah, come on. Right? Oh, God. But it involves me sitting my ass down and working and just sheer time at the piano. I read something on it was on the internet, so who knows if it's true or not. But I remember reading this like journal entry that someone had found in an old classical composer's day sheet, basically. And it showed his working schedule, and his output was crazy. And it showed you want to hear it? It's awesome. It's like the best schedule ever. Not really. But he wakes up, and he has breakfast, and then he does what it says opium. So he does some drugs. And then he sits down at his piano for about 5 hours, goes on a walk, does some more drugs, drinks some probably red wine, eats, sits down at the piano for another 5 hours, does more drugs, sits down at the piano. Basically, you look at these composers with this great body of work, and it's just because they've worked so much. They just sit their ass down. You ever get an idea and you're like, I don't know where to go with this, and you say, it's fine, and then you go hang out with your friends. No, if you were the guy who was working as a musician, you would be there until you get until it works, and maybe by the end of the night you have this whole thing. Sometimes it takes me a year to write a song. Sometimes it takes me 15 minutes. For example, those first two songs I played, a song called "A Cure Promise" and then "Gemini." "A Cure Promise" took me about a year and a half to fully flesh out pieces here and there. And the second song, "Gemini," I wrote that all in one sitting in about an hour. So it's just interesting. It's like two completely different pieces of music off the same album, written over the course of 1 year and then 15 minutes an hour. So there's no real common thread in how I write music, except I don't really use a guitar and I need to be sitting constantly and working. And the problem there is I travel a lot now, which is great, but I don't get to be I'm not creative when I'm traveling. I'm never writing music. Even Keith, he's talking about the hotel room. I'm in my hotel room snoring or playing Nintendo Switch. That's all I'm doing. Or reading Stephen King books, because fucking Stephen King, baby. So that's pretty much it. And then when I was younger, it was more so about technique. But now that I have the technique, it's like, okay, cool. I need melody. Give me some melody. Because I can play most of my songs with my thumb. Thumb vibrato, patented by Nick Johnston. Anybody else? Question? I like your shirt. It's like a Shining Ghost crossover. Where's Papa? Here's Papa. Okay, sorry, go on. That's a good question. Most challenging thing? Well, the most challenging thing while I was developing my technique was being a teenager. Acne. I'm sorry. Jeez, I got that all wrong. Back knee, probably, actually. No, okay, I'm left-handed, so I always had really bad picking. I needed a lot of reallys there to explain just how bad. Even now, I won't sit here and pick something for you because it's very, very embarrassing. Yeah, is that it's like an Opeth crossover with nature. Cool tattoo. You got crossovers all over here. At a crossover clinic. Oh my God. Picking technique really bad. Also, kind of a bit of an identity crisis in my playing because I couldn't play like any of my favorite players. I love Jeff Beck and Eddie Van Halen and who doesn't love that? And then Yngwie and Stevie Ray Vaughan. I couldn't play like any of these guys. And Paul Gilbert, he picked really good. When I was a kid, we used to put baseball cards in your bike spokes, and you'd bike. And I was like, that's like Paul Gilbert. My bike sounds like Paul Gilbert, but I can't sound like Paul Gilbert. What the fuck, man? Damn it. So that was a little bit embarrassing. So it's probably the picking. Going back to that again. And I didn't have great pitch. I did work kind of, well, not that hard, but I had to work on that, and I still don't have, obviously, perfect pitch, or because I was bending earlier out of tune, so obviously I don't have perfect pitch. What else? I guess just motivation. You know, it's hard to sit for hours. I used to play 8 hours a day, and that was like torture. It was horrible. I'd be sitting in my room, and in Canada, I don't know what it's like here in your part of the world, but where I'm from, the exotic island of Canada, where the moose roams free. When it was summertime for the 2 days, for the 2 months, everybody would be outside having a great time in the sun, and there's a little Nick up in his, going through the blinds like. Trying to play. Only shredder nerds like these two guys right here will get that joke. The guy wearing the interval shirt probably got that joke too. So just like motivation, like wanting to practice so much, and I knew I had to work. I knew I had to work like really hard because it was hard. It's still hard. You know, and I got these horrible calluses right now. I'm bending. It's a hard ass instrument to learn to play. So it's motivation, and then having really bad technique. But then once I kind of got past that, like, you know what, I'm just gonna do what I do. It got a lot easier, but that wasn't until my 20s. I'm 32 now, and you know, just still daily trying to be consistent. Because when I do these things, and this isn't easy to do, coming up in front of a room full of people and talking, I don't know if you even understand half of what I'm saying, especially with my accent. Couch, out, south, what else? Moose? No. This changed a lot of my guitar playing too. Just like, you know what, actually, I take it all back. Everything I just said, forget it. Can you just turn the camera off? We'll start over. 1 second. Okay. What really was the hardest was playing in front of people. The idea of playing in front of people as a kid was like, I'm just remembering it. It was the worst possible future, like playing in front of somebody. Even my parents, you know, if I'd be upstairs, like doing something annoying, like I was probably doing, like, oh, my parents can hear me. I'm not kidding. And then eventually I had to go to a guitar store to do something, take a lesson or something. And then I ended up trying an amp out just because I'm like, I got to get a new amp. And one of the shop dudes, like one of the guys that worked there, heard me, and I was like, fuck. And I could already play anything I wanted at that point, but my playing just disappeared. It was like, what the? It's like kryptonite. Guy in a music store with long hair was kryptonite. He had acne too. I don't know. Weird time in my life. And then eventually I joined a band when I was 20 with a bunch of guys that were much older than me. And something really cool happened, which changed everything. I played live, and I made some mistakes, and I didn't die. You just kind of realize it doesn't really matter. So all those things, fear of looking like an idiot in front of other guitar players. You know, I'm actually really glad I grew up pre-internet. I grew up pre-YouTube and pre-Instagram and everything, because you look at I can imagine like a 14-year-old or 15-year-old kid, younger Nick, acne Nick, would have seen Instagram guitar player number 463 and would have been like, holy shit, I'll never be that good. I didn't have to worry about any of that, you know. I didn't have any videos, and I just played guitar, and I had my neighbors that I would play with and stuff like that. So I grew up just like with these weird fears, fear of the unknown, basically, right? And then developed my own technique because I didn't see everybody else doing their thing, and Now I have this kind of weird style, and I do it on one of these guitars, which is interesting. But yeah, I think it was probably just. Do you play in front of a lot of people? Do you do that often? How do you deal with it? Do you get stage fright ever? Do you get nervous before a show? Okay, well, fucking all right. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Okay. Anybody else? Question? Concern? Anything on your mind? Sure. Chromatics. Oh, yeah. Do I do that? No. Okay, I have a story for you. Do you want to hear a story? It's like one of those stories where there's a lesson at the end. Maybe. More like a more like a philosophical lesson, said the guy who barely finished high school. So when I was a kid, when I was about 17, I had this guitar player I loved. His name was Brett Garced from Australia. Anybody ever heard of him? Show of hands. My man. Two people. You know he's great. He's awesome. You know he's great. He's fantastic, right? So he's like a rock, in my opinion, he's like a rock player mixed with a fusion player that just did the thing better than anybody. And when I was 17, he had his website up. Foolishly, he left his mailing address on the website. So young Nick, with my little demo CD, I mailed it to Australia from Canada, which took 55 years. I think it probably took a few months to get down there. And he actually mailed me back. And he said, hey, this is really cool. It sounds like whatever, something. You keep going. Maybe one day you can do a thing. I was like, okay, great. Even though I had never played in front of anybody besides my friends. And I kept this conversation going. And then one day I asked him, because I thought he was the best in the world with adding chromatics, like the absolute king of the world with it. And I said, Brett, much like you just said, how do you incorporate chromatics into your guitar playing? And he said, I have no idea. So the guy that I thought that was the best at it, the absolute pinnacle of that, he's like, I don't know. I'm just winging it. I'm just trying it. And I was like, because I was confused. I would see all these guys doing these burning lines, and they'd have like, the line would be like, or like, I'm like, how are they doing that? There's no secret. Okay, so there's notes that are in key, and then all the other ones aren't. And I play the ones that aren't. And then I land on one that is. And instead of playing, let's say if it was like, I don't know. Or like, I might go. Same grouping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm swinging it a little bit. I know that this is in key, but this isn't. Now it is. This note here isn't, but this note is. So I go. Or like, let's see here. So I started. Anything like that. I'm just starting on a note that's in. I lean back to a note that's not. Until you get good at just visualizing where these things are. The timing, swinging it a little bit. The swing always helps. It really does. And not really worrying if it's right or not. As long as you land. It's so funny. I've talked to a lot of guitar players about that. And like, yeah, as long as you land on a note that's in key, like, you're fucking good to go. It's interesting. I hope that answers your question. Really, it's just try shit. Let's do one more, and then I'll play music. Anybody else have a question? Anybody in the front? Two children laughing at everything in the front here. Anybody have a question? Anybody? Yeah. Modes. Okay. How are you with your music theory? Have you done much training or? Right. Okay, I can talk. I'll say what I can about that. I'm self-taught too, for the most part. I had friends that knew a lot of that stuff. They were a little bit older than me or the same age. I played guitar for a long time, not knowing anything, up until I was about 16 or 17 years old. And I remember one day I had a group of friends that were all talking, and I couldn't enjoy the conversation because they were saying things like, oh yeah, on F, I play the sharp 11, and I play the Lydian, and I'm like, who's that? I couldn't enjoy this secret language they had. Much like you guys speaking your native language, I don't know what the hell is going on. I wanted to be involved in this conversation. And then I would hear, other guitar players I looked up to in a guitar magazine. They'd have a column. They'd be like, well, if you play the Dorian mode and then you land on the 6 and then you land on the minor 6, it becomes Dorian to natural minor. I'm like, what? So I had to learn something. So I used to take books, much like you were saying, and learn this stuff. And eventually, I learned a little bit about that. I learned the modes and how to play in key and 7 chords in every key. And then what really kind of set it off for me wasn't so much the modes, but it was understanding intervals, not the band, but the concept of this distance to that distance and what that's called. So just even something as simple as knowing that that's an octave, or that this is a 6 or minor third, or any of that stuff. Just understanding a little bit about the relationship and the distance between notes. Because all the modes it's just intervals. If you're playing natural minor, you know that's a major second, minor third, perfect fourth, fifth, minor 6, minor 7, minor octave. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, shame on you. You gotta learn your shit. I'm just kidding. Not really. What that allowed me to do was start to build chords, because I knew intervals. So if I want to build a chord that has certain information, like if I want a minor chord with a 9, I can play something a little more rich. I could just add anything I want to it, then know immediately, okay, if this chord has these intervals in it, what modes have these intervals in it? I could play over top of it. Hence getting into playing over changes and stuff. So first of all, it does start with you learning the patterns. Just your basic 7 patterns. Learn them off the same starting point. Not like that. And then learn them connected in every key. Unfortunately, there's 12 keys. And it's a lot of notes. I don't know what the math is on that, but it's a lot of notes. And just see how they're all connected. That way you can play freely. But after that, that's just pattern. You don't even need your guitar for that. You can sit down with a piece of paper and just write out pitches, right? Write out notes and patterns. Where it gets interesting is if you have a minor chord, for example. Do you know what 3 modes you could play over top of that? A minor? Would you, off the top of your head, would you know maybe? Exactly. So just jamming on... Proud of him, I know, right? Guy killed it. Just, you got the girlfriend look like, fuck yeah, man. My girlfriend doesn't do that when I say frigin. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Find yourself a girl who gets proud of you for knowing your modes, guys. That is the key to life. So, playing an A minor chord and just trying to blend those 3 together, but focusing more so on what the differences are between the modes. What's the difference? He's going to get a proud look if he gets it right. I'm not going to give him that satisfaction. So if I had an A minor and I wanted to play something that was very much A minor, natural minor, I would want to play... Maybe hitting that 6 and the third against the root. But if I want it to be Dorian, the big difference there is now F becomes F sharp. So I know... Back to natural minor. This is where these pickups come in handy. Back to natural minor. Then Phrygian. Phrygian's the B flat or the minor second. So knowing off the top of your head, okay, major 6, minor 6, minor 2, or minor 9. And really just playing with those 3 notes as opposed to doing the pattern up and down. Because then you end up doing that. It's like, oh man, I played in Dorian. It's like, yeah, but you just kind of... now what, Nick? Like, I'm playing Dorian, man. Come on. It's like, yeah, but you're not really enjoying the difference between those. Like, even if it's even like an arpeggio, like knowing that if you played versus hearing the difference, obviously, if you didn't hear the difference, then. But it's minor to Dorian. Hearing that difference. Even in, like, if it's down here just as a little block chord. That sounds like some sort of James Bond thing. Or down here. Or actually really focusing on just that difference. And you could spend, I spent for years just sitting there, even with just adding maybe the next one, like you could even get into harmonic minor where you start getting more of these tensions. Or mixing that with melodic minor, which would be the 6 and 7. Beautiful music to serenade someone with. Hey, babe. And then all the major modes as well. You would do the same thing if it's major. And you want to make it sound like Lydian, you know what the key note is. In that case, it's a sharp 11. In this case, it's an E flat or D sharp. So. It's like Steve Vai, just add water. You got an A chord and you pour some Steve Vai water on it. Or Satriani, I guess. Add a chromatic line here, Nick. Add a chromatic line. Yeah, and so on and so forth. It's easy, guys. Come on, duh. So I just think if you focus just on the intervals, you don't worry so much about the pattern, and you're starting to use your ear. I remember a huge kind of turning point in all that for me was sitting in the car with my dad, and we were listening to some Led Zeppelin, as you do, when you're a dad. That's not that funny. It's kind of funny. No, fuck that. It's funny. If you had a lot of that stuff is. It's like pentatonic based. But I remember hearing this tension that Jimmy Page didn't hit. I just remember hearing that note, which would have been like that. And I remember thinking, like, why couldn't he just go, imagine he did this, actually. That's not Led Zeppelin anymore. Or like, or actually an Yngwie line. That wouldn't be Jimmy Page anymore. But I just remember thinking like, oh, I heard this tension. And I didn't think about the mode. I didn't think about harmonic minor, melodic minor, blah, 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 blah. Hungarian minor, all these. I just thought major 7. I want to hear a major 7. So I'd say really focus on just the interval difference. Long fucking answer for a simple thing. Okay, I'm actually having a lot of fun talking, so if anybody else wants to know anything, now's the time. Anybody else? Anybody else? Music business, writing, touring, eating, collaborating. Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, pardon me, sorry? Yeah. I used to really go crazy with all that stuff. When I first started out actually releasing music, I was well, even before that, when YouTube came out, I was like posting like, what? I would never, you know. And then I realized I saw some friends that were getting a lot of attention online, and because I'm a guitar player with a fragile ego, like all of us are, I wanted attention too. So I posted a video, and I don't know if anybody ever saw it. It was like 2010 or something. It was me with a red Ibanez guitar, and I had this like weird little fro of hair. And because now it's not weird. And I remember playing like a 1 minute just guitar solo of the stuff I was kind of messing around with at the time. And people were like, oh, it's really cool. So I was like, oh, okay. So I kept posting shit, and I would post 2 videos a week on YouTube for like, I think I did that for a couple of years. You will never be able to find them because I've destroyed them and burned them. And I poured salt on the ground they were buried in so they can never grow back. And what I used to do is I would just post stuff that I thought was funny throughout the week. And I would go to shows and jam with people, and we just week in the life videos. And I'm sure they're ridiculous if I watch them back. But I would use that. And this is before Instagram and really before Facebook band profiles started taking off. And then I was like, oh, Facebook. Oh, okay, cool. So I started doing that, and I would use that. And then eventually I was like, I'm just posting for this. I have nothing really worth saying. And then Instagram came out, and it was like I got to learn another thing. By the time Instagram came out, I was very fed up with all of it. But the thing about it is it's all free. So you got to use it. You got to take advantage of it. All I do now is when I feel like I have something worth sharing, I'll share it. And it's because I spent so long making music and releasing records and traveling and stuff like that. I've developed a bit of a fan base without really having to spam people or do covers. I never did a cover. The only cover I ever did was a little Spider-Man cover. And I did like a gypsy jazz kind of version of it. It was pretty silly. But that was, even years ago, and I don't think any of you have ever seen that. It didn't get a lot of attention anyways because it's ridiculous. Spider-Man, gypsy jazz. Oh, God. I don't know how to do it properly. I've just been trying stuff. That's the theme of my entire career is I don't know. Let's see what happens. I use all the free things available. I know you can do paid promotions, but I don't even know if that shit works. It does. Keith doesn't work. I wish I had a voice like Keith's. God damn it. I would just say one word all day in a microphone, and just everyone would be like, bravo. But I just try, like, is this going to work? And my first couple records, first 3 albums did horribly poor. If I was on a record label with those first 3 records, I mean, I wouldn't have gotten to 3. They would have dropped me after the first one. And that was even my second album. I had Paul Gilbert and Guthrie Govan on it. Okay, what did that do for you? Nothing. It didn't do anything for me because I didn't know how to there's two things. Number one, maybe the music was dog shit, possibly. And also, number two, I didn't know how to use any of that free stuff. Any of the Instagrams or the Facebooks or the YouTubes of the world. Or I never use Twitter. I don't get Twitter. Twitter scares me a little bit. Everyone gets in trouble on Twitter. I avoid it. But it's just been like my career and any success is just from like, if this was a brick wall and this was my head, it's just been like, until eventually at some point the wall was like, oh, I can get a little higher now. And then eventually you get over it. And then another wall's there, even taller. I've just been forcing my way through just with like, write more music, travel more, play guitar. And then I've had some really cool companies help me out, get my name out. I've played on some I played some solos on different bands' albums. That's helped get my name out there. I played on a Periphery album at one point, and I played on I played on Aaron's record. I played on a Polyphia album. A guy named Mike Dawes, another guitar player, Jason Rich. Like a bunch of solo in this like inbred scene that I'm in. I played on some of those records, and I've done some good tours. It all helps, right? But just in terms of marketing, post something when you got something to say, man. Like no one cares what you had for dinner. No one gives a shit. Maybe some people do. But yeah, it's just when you have something to say, use free technology to say it. And just remember, whatever you post stays on the internet forever, so be careful what you do on Snapchat. I'm going to play a song. That was a successful version of that song. Imagine every artist said that after every song they played. That was successful. No, because I got through it and I landed on the last chord, and usually this happens. But tonight, okay, I got time for 2 more, and then I'm gonna play one more song. Anybody out there? Anybody? Last time. Oh, yes.
Why is Schecter best for you? What makes the biggest difference against other brands?
Schecter, now available at Music City. Nick Johnston model, Kytary models. 50% off today only. No, I'm just kidding. They're like, holy shit, no. Good question. That's why I'm here. I almost got through another clinic without mentioning Schecter at all. Okay, so I grew up playing guitars by a company. Let's just call them Ender. No, let's call them Fendi. No, that's not right at all. Anyways, you can probably figure it out from there. And I played guitars based off this shape, Les Paul. and I thought those were the best guitars, and they're amazing guitars. I had a really nice version of that guitar. I had a custom shop guitar, which was fantastic. And I always thought Schecter was a metal guitar brand, even when Keith got his model and Jeff were playing and together, and they were playing these Schecter. They looked very metal to me and very angular and had cool, murderous edges. And I was like, wow, that's a cool guitar. Not really my thing. And then I saw that they used to make guitars that looked like this. And I got in touch with them, and they let me try out one of their versions of the Strat. It was called the Traditional. And I didn't play it for a while. I'd sit in the case. I was like, it's not going to be as good. I played a lot. I played some Suhr guitars, Tom Anderson. I don't know what else. Another Strat copy number 5, and so on and so forth. And then I played the Schecter guitar, and I was like, holy shit, this is by far the best Strat I'd ever played. I even did this too, I think. Oh, fuck. And I was like, we should work together kind of thing, and they were, happy to do that. The cool thing about the guitar, first of all, is like the neck's a little bit wider. I think it's made far better than that other small company I mentioned earlier. I don't know what they're called. It starts with an F or something. Small little startup brand. We here at Schecter Guitars, they have a much smaller output of guitars every month, so there's more chance for quality control and everything leaving the factory a little bit up to code, so to speak. And my guitars, specifically these custom shop guitars, are made very nice. They're beautiful guitars. There's one in the back to try, if you'd like to. You did? Oh, wow. Nice. Yeah. And so there's that. The guitars, I'm not a complicated guy. I play one of these, 3 single coils. It's got a cool neck. It's a wanky neck with an ebony fingerboard. Because it sounds good, but also because it looks good. Master tone and volume. It's really simple. Simple guitar. Modern, vintage modern, basically, right? With these cool ass paint jobs, like Easter eggs. One there. Looks like ice cream or something. And besides that, I live in Canada. The climate's really either too hot, too cold. I need a guitar that's stable. Perfect. I'm sure you guys have a similar climate, right? It gets really cold, gets really hot. Guitars shift. Shitty guitars shift. And then they were also really, really happy to do stuff together. I was very unknown at this point in my career. I'm still very unknown, but they were willing to work together and do stuff together. We started traveling together more, and then they asked if I wanted to do a signature model. And I didn't change very much originally. It was that silver guitar, which was still alder body, maple neck, rosewood fingerboard. And then they're like, well, go on. What else do you want to do? Try more. I was like, what about this one? And then we came up with this version of it. Once again, this guy here. And they've been very cool to me. They want to keep doing stuff. Every year we try something new. And it sounds really salesman-y to say this, but I really do think it's the best version of this guitar. It's amazing. It's like I haven't needed to tune. I don't use pedals. Like it does everything. And I'm going to play this one in a second. This is the Diamond Series version, which is the non-custom shop version, basically. This is made in California. This is made in Indonesia. And even these guitars are fucking amazing. Oh, I don't know why I whispered that. It's in a microphone. Fucking amazing. I'm trying to be subtle about it, but it's in a microphone, which I'll play in a second. But it does everything I need to. And they're a great company. It's a small, big company, basically. And I got to come here again because of them. So that's why I probably should have mentioned them from the start. Actually, before I play my last song, let's give it up for Music City and Schecter guitars. And my good buddy, Keith Merrow. We've traveled a lot together too. So it's just this cool little thing we got going. This little family of artists. It's awesome. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to me fucking ramble on for over an hour. And we're going to be hanging out at this little table where we got some guitars set up. And we've got some merch. Please buy merch. Please buy merch. And if you want to take any sweaty, dirty old selfies together with the flash on, apparently, because we like to look extra sweaty in the flash photos and burn our eyeballs out, we will do that. Guys, thank you again. I got one more song. Thank you very much. The auto fade out.